So we have an update when it comes to the verbal and physical altercation that recently took place on board an MSC cruise ship involving a disgruntled passenger that was sailing on board and a comedian that was working on board. We have the name of the comedian, we have statements from the comedian, and we also have the ending results of what became of the disgruntled passenger and the comedian working on board the cruise ship, which we will go over in this video. However, I have to be honest with you, the result from all of this is going to surprise a lot of you, potentially that is, like it did me. So I am going to give you a quick recap as far as what has taken place, that we were all on the same page up until this point. However, if you want to see the initial original video that I made with the video and sound of everything that took place on board, I will leave a link to my previous video right up here, as well as pin it in the comment section below. So there was recently a cruise that took place between August 15th through August 18th on board the MSC Seashore cruise ship that is currently conducting 3 and 4 night sailings out of Port Canaveral, Florida, going over to the Caribbean. For those of you that may not be experienced with cruise ships, typically any cruise that is really 4 or 5 nights or shorter is what we would call a booze or party cruise. In my opinion, I believe that is relevant for this story to some degree. Nevertheless, on this cruise that took place, on the second day of the cruise on August 16th, apparently during the 11:30 adult-only comedy show, there was a fight between 2 men believed to be 2 guys that were not black. This is important for the story. And after the fight was broken up and things were de-escalated by the cruise director, the comedian allegedly and apparently started making jokes about black people fighting and being rambunctious on cruise ships. And this is when the challenger approaches the lady. She didn't like the comments that the comedian was making. She didn't like the jokes at all. So she then decided to walk up on stage and confront him like you saw in the video. There was a lot of back and forth for a couple minutes between the disgruntled passenger, the lady, and the comedian. The comedian turned some jokes onto her. A lot of people were laughing. And during the altercation, there was a lot of yelling and screaming, primarily by the disgruntled guest, the lady. And this went on for a couple minutes. During the altercation, the comedian would crack some jokes at her because, well, obviously she was essentially stealing the show, which in my opinion, I think made sense. However, as the lady was walking away, she did throw what appeared to be a glass cup at the comedian. Thankfully, judging by the video, it appears that she had missed. However, even after the dust had settled and things had cleared up, the situation wasn't done and over with. So it has now been confirmed that the comedian that was involved in this conundrum here was 54-year-old Robert L. Hines from Chicago. He is best known by many for his role as Jones in a good-ass barbecue and foot massage commercial. You should check it out. It is pretty funny. Now, I did reach out to Robert L. Hines after I made my initial video via social media, and he did respond to me, giving a little clarity and some information as far as the aftermath of what became of both the disgruntled guest and him. It turns out, as far as the guest, whenever the MSC Seashore arrived at its next port of call, which just so happens to be MSC's private island located in the Bahamas, Ocean Cay, she was met with authorities. However, we don't know what exactly became of that. Did she get arrested? Is she still being investigated? Is she getting banned? Nevertheless, it is, in my opinion, nice to see that she is going to face some repercussions for her actions. As far as what became of the comedian Robert L. Hines, he confirmed to me today that he has been suspended until further notice. As you could imagine, being suspended from a job could mean a lot of things, especially if you're talking about something as complex as working on a cruise ship. There are contracts involved, and just to briefly and broadly peel the curtain back a little bit, there are people, if you don't know, that work on cruise ships that are doing longer contracts from anywhere between 6 to 12 months, sometimes even longer. There are people that are doing shorter contracts. In terms of most comedians, they are doing contracts in which they are labeled as a guest entertainer. Typically, you get the best of both worlds. You get to go to, oftentimes, well, at least up until the pandemic, the crew areas and the guest areas, and you're usually doing contracts that could last maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, somewhere around that range. There are a lot of ways that a comedian can get hired on a cruise ship as a guest entertainer. Some of them have personal agents that only work with and for them. Some of them work with agencies, and there is a pool of dozens upon dozens of other comedians that are waiting for jobs and gigs, and some comedians are hired through a third party. I don't know the particulars and details when it comes to this particular comedian. However, usually when something like this happens, a lot of comedians kind of wait around. Some of them have big names, and some of them have worked on many cruise ships, have a lot of experience, so they were able to continue getting contracts again and again and again from one line to another line, or maybe they just have like a dedicated cruise line that they are working for. However, believe it or not, if you've had a job, whether you have a regular, stable, full-time job, or you are a 1099 contract worker, like in this case working on cruise ships, We know that nothing is guaranteed. Every cruise line, as you could imagine, has their vision and their protocols as far as what they want and how they want it done. One cruise line may not mind maybe curse words, naughty sailor words, or this type of humor, where another one is saying that they don't deal with it at all. I would imagine in this particular case, whatever protocols and views or type of comedy that MSC aligns itself with, they didn't like how this gentleman, this comedian here, reacted to this woman. They believe that he should have essentially shut his mouth until she left. And when you deal with the comedian, typically they have a comedic style that works for them, and usually they don't change it. You might have a comedian that kind of more so sticks to the script and they just kind of say what needs to be said. And then you have other ones that can kind of ad-lib and improvise and do a lot of crowd work. Some would argue those are the best comedians. However, those are often the most criticized comedians, as some people may not like the type of crowd work the comedian is doing, like in this particular case. I did ask a lot of you in my previous video how you think this altercation should have gone down. Should the comedian just have been quiet until the lady left, seeing as how this particular situation stemmed from an actual physical fight that took place, which then eventually led to the woman throwing the glass, which you could consider an attempted assault or an assault. No matter how you look at it, it's still all bad. Most of you did agree that the comedian was just literally doing his job. There was a small portion of people that said, yeah, he should have shut up considering how stressful and crazy the situation was, sure, but I personally am on the side of the fact that the comedian was just doing his job. Maybe there was a better angle he could have took, or maybe he could have cracked just one or two jokes instead of just kind of going with it, but it is what it is. But that is what I have for this video. Of course, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as usual, I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.